Okay, welcome back to Unreal Engine Indy. So we left off with the enemy being able to run up to the player and do a attack montage. So now we need for it to actually do damage. Okay, so we need to set up collision boxes, kind of like what we did for the Wukong character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up enemy melee header, enemy melee CPP, Wukong character header, Wukong character CPP. So I'm going to jump into Wukong character .header because we're going to need what we did for Wukong. And if I look through here, what we did was we set up activate and deactivate weapon boxes. All right, I know I'm going to need that. So I'm going to copy that, jump over to enemy header into the public section, go ahead and paste that in. And that was in the public section. Right here, public. So in enemy melee header, we need to create the definitions for these. Generate definition. Go back into the enemy melee header, and we need to generate definition. Okay, so let's go back into the Wukong character header. What else do we need? I think begin play, no, move right, turn, running, stop, recall, play, montage, right weapon overlap. Okay, so I think we're going to need that. Go ahead, copy that, and that was in the protected section. So we'll go over to protected, go ahead and paste that in. On right weapon overlap. And we need to create a definition for that. Alright, so jump back into Wukong character header. What else do we need? We got the overlap. We're going to need the actual collision boxes. So let's scroll down here and see where that's at. Right weapon collision. Go ahead and copy that, jump over to enemy melee header. Go to the private, and let's just put it right here. Okay, so we have UBox component, and it says import type. Okay, so we're going to need, we scroll up here, box component. Go ahead, copy that, and we can paste that in. Box component. Got rid of the error. And always make sure when you're in the header, when you see the generate.h, don't put any includes underneath there because it will throw an error. So that's all the headers. And we created the definitions. Let's go ahead and do a quick build just to make sure everything's working. Build succeeded. Okay. I just like doing the builds from time to time like that when I'm adding stuff like this, just in case something goes wrong, you catch it early. So what do we need? Well, let's go into the CPP. Let's see how we set this up for the player. Right weapon collision boxes. Well, we are going to need that, so let's go ahead and copy that. Jump over to the enemy melee. Okay, so enemy melee. This is the constructor, so we need to put that inside the constructor. A enemy melee, right weapon collision boxes. Okay. Come over here to the CPP and the begin play. Bind function to overlap event for weapon boxes. Going to need that. Set up right weapon collision boxes. We are going to need that. So let's copy that. That's in begin play. Come over here to where is, so we don't have a begin play here. So what we are going to need to do is I don't want to put it in the A enemy. So we need a begin play in the enemy melee, because right here we have begin play. So we have it in the enemy, but I don't want to set this up for the enemy because we are separating melee and ranged. So what I'm going to do is come over here. Begin play is in the protected section. This is in a Wukong character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that, come over here to the protected section, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that in, and then I'm going to generate definition for the begin play. And inside begin play, we need super begin play. We have that. So now I'm going to go ahead and take this, copy the bind function, jump back over to enemy melee, and then paste that in. Now, you're going to see an error, and that's because we need this right weapon overlap. We need that to be A enemy melee right weapon overlap. Go ahead and save that. Okay, so that should be set up. Go ahead and do a quick build. Alrighty. So we got this right weapon collision, the binding, and set up the collision boxes. Let's go back to the Wukong character CPP. Move forward, no. Move right, turn, look up, running, stop, recall, play animal, montage, main attack. The on the right weapon overlap. And as you can see here, we did if is valid, the sweep result, get actor, and we did melee interface. We're not going to do an interface there, and then we just did melee interface. Don't need that. Apply damage to enemy. We don't need that. But what we are going to do is we need the if is a valid sweep result. If is valid sweep result as an on right weapon overlap. So come over to enemy melee CPP on right weapon overlap. And we'll go ahead and add that in. Because the sweep result is right here, and we're going to get the actor, and then we are going to say screen debug text, which is a shortcut for me, and what am I going to say? Sweep result for player. Or just say hit player. Make it simple. Okay. Now, let me double check to make sure everything is there. And, there we go. Activate right weapon, deactivate right weapon. So if we come over to enemies melee, where is the activate right weapon, deactivate? It's up here. Activate right weapon, deactivate weapon. Okay, so we need to activate and deactivate. Okay, so let's just copy this. Activate right weapon. Come over here, activate right weapon, paste that in. And we'll go over to deactivate. Copy that. And deactivate. We'll paste that in, save it, and we'll just put enemy. Activate weapon. enemy deactivate weapon. Now, if we do a quick build, it's all going to work and build successful. However, if you play it in the editor, it's not going to work. And the reason for that is if we come over here to your Explorer, and if you look at the character, we did notify state right weapon and notify state right weapon, because we have to, in the end of montage, you have to put the notify states in. As you can see here, Wukong activate the right weapon when the montage hits a certain section of the animation. You have to activate the weapon and deactivate the weapon. So we need to do a notify state for the enemy. So let's come in here, and we know we need to create a notify state, and what we need to do is when we create it, we need to look for this right here, anim notify state. Make sure you are using this right here, anim notify state. So let's go ahead and build this, jump into the editor and create the notify. Okay, so we are in the editor. I'm going to come in here. We did a notify state right weapon, and we'll just right click, new C++ class, all classes, and we need a anim notify, and anim notify state. And what we did for the Wukong character, we did a anim notify state. You need to make sure it's anim notify state. So, anim notify state. And we will go ahead and click next. And what I'm going to put here, enemy right weapon. And I want to create another folder called notify. Notify or notifies. I will just do notify. And create. And it is creating the skeleton code. Here we go. So that is created now. So let's go ahead and close that out. And I'm going to close that Wukong character. And enemy right weapon notify. So this is what we have so far. And what we did for the character, I'm going to just go ahead and grab this, throw it over to the right, and then grab the notify state right weapon, go ahead and put that up there as well. So we're in the header of the enemy right weapon, and we need to be in the notify state right weapon for the Wukong character. So we did declarations class character, okay. So let's go ahead and do declarations class enemy melee. So So what we have here, you anim notify state, and it's anim notify state. That's good. We need a public section. So we need a public section. We need a u property. And we need a enemy melee. That's going to be a pointer, and we need enemy melee. Okay. So that's set up, and now we need to notify begin and end. So let's just come over here, copy all of this over here. Go ahead and paste that in. And go ahead and click save. So we need to notify begin. Let's just generate that definition. Jump back into the header, notify end, generate that definition. Okay, so let's see what we did for the Wukong character to get these notifies working. So we did notify begin. We did not need the supers, so remove the super. Remove the supers. Okay, supers are removed. So inside here we did if mesh comp and mesh comp get owner, and we did a cast to the Wukong. If Wukong character, then we call the activate right weapon. Okay, so that's pretty simple. We just do an if statement, and we do the mesh comp, because mesh comp is, as you can see right up here, mesh comp, if that is valid, and mesh comp get owner. If that is valid, we're going to do enemy melee, and we're going to cast. What we're going to cast to is the enemy melee, and it added the header, as you can see right here. It added the header, so make sure that that is there. And we need to use the mesh comp get owner. Okay, and we need to do an if to make sure that's valid. If enemy melee, if that is valid, we're going to do enemy melee, and we need to activate the right weapon. So we are calling the function we created. Okay, so basically what we need to do is do the same thing, but we are going to deactivate it. So I'm going to copy and paste. Instead of activate, we are going to deactivate a right weapon. And oh, that should work. Except for these are red, and the reason they are red is because I need to add them to get. Adding anim notify state created weapon collisions. That's good enough. Okay, go ahead and push that up. Okay, so it seems like we've got everything. I think we can close this out. Don't know if we need that anymore. If we get an error, we'll figure it out. Go ahead and build the solution. Build succeeded. So let's just jump into the editor. Let's start seeing if things are going to work. So we created anim notifies. Let's go to the enemy. Let's go to the montage. Attack montage, here we go. Go ahead and open that up, close that. So about right there, we need to activate and then deactivate. So we see the notify sections here, and then you need to right click, add a notify, which is just regular notify. We need a notify state, and as you can see here, we have enemy right weapon, and a notify just notifies something, just kicks off the code. Notify state has these little things that you can drag out, and it's something that starts and ends. So let's go about right here to activate the collision boxes, and about right there you need to deactivate, I guess, right there. We'll try that. Okay, and let's come up over here. Aha, that is the left weapon, so we can't do that yet. So you will be doing the left weapon, and then next video I will be doing it, so you can verify what you've done. And of course, if it's working, more than likely you did it correctly. Okay, so we have the notify states, and that should kick off. However, we need to go to the blueprint and look at the viewport, and we see the right weapon. As you can see, it's down there, and that is incorrect, because we need it to be attached to a socket. So we need to create that socket and attach it to mesh. Open that up, skeletal mesh. Click on the skeleton in the upper right. Let's look for hand. That's IK hand R. Do not do that one. Hand R, and we'll add a socket. And we will rename that socket to right weapon bone. It's not a bone. Let's just call it right weapon socket. Right weapon socket. Okay. Go ahead and save that. Come in here. Okay, so we added the right weapon socket. However, it's not attaching to the right hand, like with that socket. And after looking around, there's a good reason why that's not working. So if you go into enemy melee.cpp, you see right weapon collision box. So let's run through this, create default, right weapon box. So that is being created, right weapon collision, setup attachment. Setup attachment, okay. So the end parent and the F name is in socket name. Okay, so we have the get mesh, which is that, and we have the F name, right weapon bone. Well, we named it right weapon socket, and that's not going to show up because it does not match with the socket name. So let's go ahead and change that. Come back in here. Let's go ahead and do a hot reload and see if that's all going to work. And it still shows down there. Let me double check to see what I named it. Right weapon socket. Just go ahead and copy that. Right weapon socket. Let's just close out of the editor completely. We'll go ahead and save that. Right weapon socket. And we'll just close that out. Right weapon socket. So maybe the hot reload would not work. So we'll just go ahead and restart the editor. Sometimes you have to do that. And we'll go into Wukong enemy. And there you go. So it's right there. Sometimes that happens. If you do a hot reload and you're not seeing the results that you want to see, just go ahead and shut down the editor and restart it. So let's come over here. Let's click off real time because I don't want real time. I want to be able to adjust this now. And sometimes you have to click off, click back in, click off, click back in. Don't know why it's doing that. It only started that in Unreal 5 for me. And we'll just adjust it right here. There we go. Does that look about right? I'm gonna bring it out just so, yeah. So it reaches out just a tad bit more. Doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be working pretty decent. Okay. That's close enough. Doesn't need to be perfect. And I'm thinking this is all going to work. Let's go ahead and click play. We should see the activate and deactivate. Okay, so I adjusted the collision boxes and they weren't working, and that's because the collision box was too small. And as you can see here, the collision box now is kind of big. It was really small and it really wasn't hitting the character or the player. It wasn't overlapping. So now I just kind of made it a little bit bigger, and we can jump in, click play, and let's see how this is working now. Well, they did left attack, and now I can't get away fast enough. There we go. So it did a right attack, enemy deactivate weapon, enemy activate, deactivate, hit player. Okay. So that's all working now. So just make sure that the collision boxes are big enough to overlap and hit the player. So as you can see, mine's quite large collision box, so you'll just have to play around with it and get what is working for you. So that's all I have. We have created the right weapon collision box, the activate, deactivate. So what you should do now is go ahead and create the left one. Enemy right weapon. So what you should do is just come in here, do exactly the same thing we just did for the right weapon and do it for left weapon. Do a virtual void, activate left weapon, do that, and then come down here on right weapon overlap, do a on left weapon overlap. Go ahead and create the left weapon collision down here in the private section U-box component, and in the enemy melee CPP right weapon collision box, go ahead and do a left weapon and make sure it's a left weapon socket, and you will have to jump into the editor and create that socket for the enemy under the hand _L, and activate right weapon and deactivate right weapon. You want to do the same thing, but do it for a left weapon. And of course the left weapon collision, just make sure all that is correct. And then the begin play, you bind the function. You need to bind the left weapon collision, bind that, and set up right weapon collision box. Do the same thing but for the left one. And I believe, and of course the on right weapon overlap, you'll be doing on left weapon, and you'll just say hit player. And you can put like right weapon, left weapon in there for your text. So go ahead and do the left weapon, and then we'll go ahead and do that in the next video, and I'll run through it quickly. And it should be pretty simple for you. At this point, you should be able to do this, and this is the best way for you to learn, is to go ahead and do things and create it on your own. And then I will see you in the next video. And bye for now.